The Performance Bike Scoop, our weekly show here at the Performance Bike Facebook page in the Performance Bicycle Warehouse. Happens every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's our show about all the latest and greatest things that are happening in our world that we're excited about and that we want to share with you. And today, it's Valentine's Day, and we want to talk about the 5 signs that your bike needs some love. We're joined here by Eddie. Eddie, you're no stranger to the Bike Scoop. Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome. Been here a couple times. Kind of nice.
Yeah, Eddie's one of our more seasoned mechanics in the building, though we do have a lot of seasoned mechanics. Eddie's really, really good too. So he's going to walk us through the 5 signs that your bicycle needs some love here in just a second. If this is your first time joining us, this happens again every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on our Facebook page. Also follow us on Instagram if you're not at Performance Bike. And it's the month of love. It's February. We love cycling, and we want to share that love with all of you. So we are going to send one lucky person and one of their lucky friends to a 10-day trip to Spain. So to learn more about that, head to performancebike.com/bikeloveisreal, and you can learn there about how you can win a trip to Spain for 10 days. Everything's covered. So, all right, Eddie.
Yes.
It's Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day.
Bike love. What are the top 5 signs that your bicycle needs some love? Because it's February.
It's February.
Spring's
you probably
around the corner.
Just pulled your bike out of the garage. If you haven't been riding all year, this one came out of our employee
one of our
supply.
Anonymous employees, so we won't say who it is.
He doesn't really know I have this up here, but you know, maybe we'll fix his bike for him without him knowing it. So first we're going to talk about the 5 signs. Number 5, we're going to go pretty much anything that's going to touch the bike, anything you're wearing, your gloves, your chamois, padded shorts, your helmet, your shoes, anything that could potentially hurt you if it's not correctly, set up, or if there's any damage or anything.
Yeah, and I think a good sign that it needs some love is if it hurts. So if your hands hurt, if your feet hurt, if your shoulders hurt, if you fall off and you don't have a helmet on, your head will get hurt. So anything that hurts needs some attention. All right?
Correct, yeah. So we're going to start looking at the helmet. This is a new helmet we brought up here. But you pull this out of your garage, probably been sitting covered in dust. You're going to take a look at it, maybe get a little bit of a flex to kind of see if there's any cracks that open up.
A good visual inspection
Take
really
a look,
helps.
see how many dings or dents are on the top. Your helmet manufacturer is probably going to say 3 to 5 years on replacement. So if it's over that time limit, you want to go ahead and replace it. Yeah. About 75% of the deaths that happen in the cycling is due to head injuries. So you want to protect your lid. Alrighty?
Yeah, and the foam does give out. We're not just trying to sell people new things. It's not like an industry-derived thing. The foam actually gives out over time, and again, if it's been 8 years, something like that, it's your old helmet from back in the day. It needs to be replaced. You need to get a new one.
The UV will break them down pretty quickly.
And then let's hear what else about, we were talking about anything that touches the bike,
anything
right?
that touches the bike.
So what else? So gloves are super important. Some gloves have gel padding. Some people prefer not to ride with gloves. A bike fit is really going to help you with that. We talked about saddle. If your bottom's hurting, you might need a new saddle. So some saddles are really wide, some are more narrow. They're all specific to the curvature of your body and how wide your sit bones are. A good pair of shorts can also do that. So this is the chamois here, and you see that the chamois interfaces very nicely there with the saddle to provide extra cushion and support for the sit bones. And then lastly, I guess, are shoes, right?
Shoes, yeah, they can get a little torn up. Your cleats can get worn out, which could potentially cause you to get stuck on your bike, which is not really a good
you're
thing.
over the bars.
Over the bars. Your laces can get torn up. Some of the upper can get kind of torn up a little bit, but you want to give them a good inspection to make sure they're okay. Really nice new ones here, so no worries.
Yep.
So next we're going to move to the bike. The bike, you'll probably pull out, and you might want to give it a little clean just to kind of wipe it down some. But first we're going to look at kind of the visual things. This bike's a little dirty. He kind of went out today and got it kind of messed up. But I do see a few issues here. One, it is a little dirty, so you want to clean it up. I see a little bit of oil here around the rear shock, something that he might want to get taken to the shop.
So you're moving to more like the visual thing, right?
Yeah, more of a visual.
So number 5 was like if something hurts your equipment, make sure it's good.
Yeah.
The number 4 sign would be visually something is wrong with it.
Yeah, you want to take a look at it, make sure there's no rust anywhere. Rust could potentially build up on the chain. I've seen a few people that store their bike in their pool house next to their chlorine, and that'll wipe out a bike really quickly. So you want to go ahead and make sure all these seals and things are pretty clean. You know, wipe down the fork a little bit down here. You know, of course, wipe down the chain some. You know, and this is kind of lead me into the next. Number 3 is going to be noise. If your bike is making some weird noises other than the normal clicking sound, you might have something going on here.
A little rattling.
A little rattling, a little creaking, popping. Some of those kind of come from headset bearings or crank bearings or things like that. Some bikes I'll actually take, especially full suspension bikes, I'll pop them out of the stand, drop them down on the ground, give them a little bit of a bounce. A little bit of noise up front. We'll check that in a second.
And I think another noise that you could hear is your brakes potentially rubbing, whether it's the front or rear wheels rubbing on like a cantilever style brake, or if it's disc brakes, sometimes the discs can be warped, so that's going to be an audible noise, right?
Yep.
Shifting.
Yeah, I kind of played around with this one to make a little bit of noise, but there's not a ton of noise coming out of the drivetrain. One thing that I'll hear quite often riding in the greenways around the town is going to be somebody's chain. It's like they're getting chased by little birds. This one's pretty clean and pretty lubricated, but if your bike sounds like a tracked vehicle, definitely take it to a shop and have somebody lubricate it.
How often should you lube the chain if you're riding in foul conditions? Because that happens, I think yesterday I got caught in the rain.
In rain, I would probably, after your ride, immediately go home and wipe down the chain, at least get some of the moisture off of it. Conditions, you know, how much you ride is going to really affect how often you lubricate the chain. But, you know, I usually tend to say about 5 or 6 rides.
Gotcha.
Now, this also, you want to wipe your chain down after you throw a little bit of lube on here. You're going to run your chain through a rag.
It's really important to get that excess lube off of there. Because the more the lube that's on it, the more it'll pick up dirt.
Yeah, you want to get that into the chain, not really on the surface of it. All right, so number 2, we're going to go and look at your tires. So sometimes you're sitting your bike in your garage and your tires are going to go flat over time, regardless if you have tubeless tires or not. So you'll want to go ahead and inspect those, add some air.
These feel pretty good.
Yeah, these are pretty good. These are big fat tires, so you're probably running around 15 psi in those.
Dry rot's like a pretty common
dry
thing
rot
that people come in with their bike.
Tires last a while. I've seen 20-year-old tires be okay, but you inflate them, you can see the cracks. They'll kind of open up some, so you want to go ahead and have that looked at. Another thing would be your tubes. If your wheels sit around flat and you move your bike around the garage, there's a potential you could puncture those. So if it's all the way flat and sitting on the ground, I'd say go ahead and replace them. Better safe than sorry. All right, so
we're talking, if you're just joining us, this is a Performance Bike Scoop, happens every Wednesday at 3 p.m. I'm here with Eddie, and we're talking about the 5 signs that your bike needs some love, because it's February. Season's right around the corner. If your bike's just been sitting around, if you're starting to get out for a couple of rides, the things to keep in mind is number 5, if something hurts, replace it. So if it's like your gloves, your hands, your shoes, that kind of thing, your equipment definitely matters. So if you're not feeling good, go into the store, get a new saddle, get a bike fit, all that kind of good stuff. Number 4 was visual. So if it's really dirty or if there's rust on it, it needs some love. All right, number 3, noise. If you're trying to ride it and you hear different things, it needs some love. If your tires and tubes are flat and your tires could potentially be dry rotted, need some love.
Yeah, you could also be just out of sealant. So you want to pick up your tire if you have tubeless tires and give it a little shake. Make sure it sloshes around in there some. If not, you'll want to throw a little in there. This is actually pretty dry. So we'll see if he wants to get some sealant in there for you.
Gotcha. And so those are the 4 signs so far. So what is the last one? We've gone 5 through number 2. I think the last sign that your bike needs some love is probably the most important out of all of them, right?
Pretty much. So you've done all these inspections, you've got your bike out, you got your helmet on, everything looks good. You want to make sure this thing works. So hop on your bike, you get going, and you hear all this clanking and noise. Well, there's something going on. So this is definitely a good time to take it to a professional. Bring it into the shop, let me take a look at it. We'll go through the whole thing, potentially ask if you want to do a tune-up, and make sure everything is tip-top for your year of riding.
Pretty good advice. If your bike doesn't work, bring it into the shop and we can help you out. So we have trained seasoned mechanics in all of our stores. If you're a DIYer, a lot of times you can do it yourself. We have lots of tools to help you along that DIY process. But if the bike doesn't work, and this happens a lot, people bring it in and they say, hey, my bike doesn't work. I need to get it ready for the spring. can I get a quote? And then we run through all the different things. And a lot of times, honestly, that can be kind of expensive if you're having to replace everything. So Eddie, at what point should you consider just getting a new bike when the investment of a new bike is going to be less than the cost of replacing everything?
Well, the thing about a new bike is you have a renewed desire to get out and ride it. So
Yeah.
a new bike, that's pretty valuable. So you want to take that into account. Another thing, if the bike is really kind of old, a lot of technology changes on these things. It changes constantly. Every day some new stuff comes out. So you could have a better experience with a new bike, and that would get you on the bike a lot more.
Yeah, totally. And it's, from a financial decision, you can work the numbers, and we can give you a quote. And if that quote is higher than a new bike, that's a great excuse to get a new bicycle.
Yep.
And
continued maintenance, could make up for just doing a little payment plan for a new bike. It could give you a better experience.
Yeah, and we do have free lifetime adjustments. And if you're just getting into it, if you do buy a new bicycle, you need to maintain it. Keep it clean. Keep it serviced so that it keeps riding, because if it just sits out there and collects dust and the tires go flat and dry rotted, then you're definitely not loving the bicycle.
Yeah,
we want
not
you
at
guys
all.
to love the ride and love the bikes.
The bike love is real.
Let's hear it. Renee tuned in. Renee, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. Lindsay, thanks for the comments there. We're about to sign off here in just a second. If you have any questions, feel free to ask those as we go. Eddie and I work pretty close together, and so we will answer those questions. Eddie will answer them via me. Again, this is the Performance Bike Scoop. It happens every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Today we've been talking about the 5 signs that your bicycle needs some love. It is Valentine's Day. It's mid-February. Season's right around. We have like 70 degrees tomorrow.
It was nice.
I'm excited. I have a renewed sense of wanting to ride. Not that that sense really ever leaves me.
No.
I kind of always want to ride my bicycle. But thanks for tuning in. Tune in again next week at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be talking next week with Alejo Fernandez, who's a Red Bull rally car driver in California, and he's also an avid cyclist, and he works with us. And we're going to be learning and hearing from his perspective what it's like to train on bikes. We're also giving away a trip to Spain. So if you want to go to Spain and ride bikes for 10 days, we are going to help you do that. You and one friend go to performancebicycle.com/bikeloveisreal for more details on that. Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
All right. Have a great week, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks a lot.
Cheers.